Well, hello, my friends, and welcome once again to the Romano Report Podcast. Today is January 6th, and not a good day, I guess. It's, what is it, the 5th year anniversary of the worst crime ever committed against the country by a president of the United States. I think that's worthy of commentary. Yeah, I think I'll do a video on that, but I'm not going to talk about it in this one. Anyway, haven't done one of these podcasts in quite a while, but now we are past the holiday season, and I am going to be ramping this podcast back up. Not exactly sure what my posting schedule on this podcast will be. I would like to do it at least 3 days a week, and maybe even 5 if I can. But we'll see how it goes. I'm still trying to juggle various things in my daily schedule, but I am committing to posting long form podcasts on this channel on a much more regular basis. So please look out for those. Thank you for being here. What I'd like to do today, there's so much in the news, and I actually want to go back and cover some things that I have not been able to comment on over the last several weeks. I mean, I'm telling you, every day itchy nose today. Every day I make notes on things in the news that I want to discuss, and I never get anywhere close to discussing all of them. So there are some things I do want to go back and discuss over the next couple of weeks on this channel. But today, I really sort of felt like taking some questions. I like to do that, and I think I'm going to make that a more regular part of the show. Because you guys have questions that have to do with things that are going on currently in the news anyway, so that's a good way for me to sort of discuss what's in the news and to address your questions about them at the same time. So I'm going to be doing that more frequently, and so I'd like to do that today. So I posted on the channel earlier today, not a video, just a text post asking if anyone had any issues they would like me to discuss or questions they had. So let's take a look at some of the questions. And when I do this and I ask for questions, I will do my best to answer as many as I can, but I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, either because of time constraints or because you might be asking something that is outside my area of expertise, and I don't like commenting on things unless I know what I'm talking about. Unlike a lot of people out there who just spout off on any topic as if they were an expert, I try to stay in my lane in terms of my knowledge. If I really don't know anything about something, I'm not going to come here and pretend that I do. If I do discuss it, I will tell you that, hey, look, this is just my opinion based on my limited knowledge, but I don't like to do that. So either it's outside my wheelhouse, so I won't answer the question, or honestly, if it just bores me and I'm not interested in it, I'm not going to fake interest to answer a question. Sorry, but it is what it is. So let's take a look at some of these questions. Will the U.S. run out of friends by the end of Trump's term? Well, I don't know what friends we'll have left by the end of Trump's term. I don't know that he's going to make it to the end of his term, but will we have any friends left by the time this orange piece of shit is gone? I don't know. I don't think we will have many. I mean, he is doing... See, the thing... Here's what he's doing. He is alienating our allies, or who have traditionally been our allies, even our strongest allies. I mean, when you are making the Canadians hate us, I mean, you're burning bridges to our closest allies. And it's not just Canada. He is literally threatening Denmark, a NATO ally. I mean, this is unbelievable. So I don't know who the hell we're going to have left as friends. We will have strategic allies, but I think what our allies are doing, as fast as they possibly can, they are shoring up other relationships, other economic relationships, because you can't count on us anymore. I mean, Trump was elected in 2016, right? Other countries could have written that off as a fluke. Just a fluke of our ridiculous electoral college system, which I don't want to get into it right here. I've done it before. Maybe we'll talk about it again. The electoral college system that we have for electing a president, it made a lot more sense at the time that the Constitution was drafted and the electoral college system was put into the Constitution. It actually did make a great deal of sense at the time for what the country was and what they were trying to do with the Constitution. We had independent colonies turned states, and we wanted to unite them in one country. But they did not they wanted to give up a minimal level, a minimal amount of their own independence. All right? It's different than it is now. And that is in large part why we have the electoral college. You'll hear people say that the electoral college system was, you hear this from MAGAs a lot because they have no fucking idea what they're talking about. The reason we have the electoral college is to, so that the big states won't control everything at the expense of the small states. No, that's not what it was about. Anyway, we'll do an in-depth discussion of that at some time in the future. But it made a lot more sense at the time. It no longer does. We are a different country now. To me, it no longer makes any sense. We should get rid of it. But that would require a constitutional amendment. There's no serious push for that right now, so we're stuck with it. Anyway. So we could have written off, and other countries dealing with us could have seen us elect this absolute psychopath, incompetent buffoon, malignant narcissist. They saw that we elected him in 2016. He lost the popular vote. He got in there by the skin of his teeth, by the quirk of our ridiculous electoral college system. And they could say, you know what? We're not going to ban in the United States. This was a quirk. This was a one-off. This does not mean that the United States has fundamentally changed to the point that we can't count on them as an ally anymore. Well, yeah, they could have said that. They could have talked themselves into believing that, after the 2016 election. But we did it again. Not only did we do it again, we did it much, much worse. First of all, he actually won the popular vote. Didn't get a majority. He missed getting a majority, but he won the popular vote. And I make that distinction because when I say that he won the popular vote, I get a lot of people commenting, no, he didn't. He didn't win a majority. Moron. That's not the same thing. Anyway, so he won the popular vote, but he did not get a majority. But he won the fucking popular vote this time. So he won bigger than he did in 2016. And he won it, I mentioned January 6th at the outset here. He won it after having tried to overthrow the Republic. And we elected him again. And yes, you and I didn't. So I don't need any comments about, we didn't elect him. I didn't vote for him. No shit. The collective we as a country elected him again. After having literally tried to overthrow the Republic on live TV. And January 6th, the insurrection was not the only crime that he committed. The insurrection was the last desperate attempt as part of a greater criminal conspiracy to steal the election and to hold on to power illegally. There were a lot of other things that they tried. You know, the lawsuits, not that that's illegal. It's legal, obviously, to challenge the results by lawsuits. But other things, pressuring state election officials to throw out votes, and all of those kinds of things. He tried a lot of things to steal that election. And when none of it worked, as a last desperate attempt on January 6th, the day that the Congress was going to certify the results of the election, he literally summoned a violent, armed mob. And yes, they were armed. And if you paid attention to the January 6th committee findings and their hearings, Donald Trump did not want his people to have to go through the magnetometers. The Secret Service wanted them to, but Trump said, the Secret Service said some of these people are armed, and he said, yeah, so what? They're not here for me with those weapons. They're here for Congress, which, I'm getting ready to send them to Congress. So he summons this violent armed mob to Washington, then incites them with that speech where he says, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. And then he directs them to the Capitol. Now, I just heard him on TV a couple hours ago. He was giving a speech at a Republican retreat. He was speaking to members of Congress, Republican members of Congress. They were having a little conference retreat. And he was talking about January 6th and how he told people to be peaceful. And that was evidence that, it was not an insurrection because he told them to be peaceful when he sent them to the Capitol. What was the point of sending them to the Capitol? Well, you knew they were armed. You wanted them armed. You whipped them up into a frenzy and you sent them to the Capitol. For what fucking reason? What reason would they be there? Other than to scare members of Congress, or to do what they did, break into the fucking place, scare members of Congress, and to stop the certification of the vote that he lost. There's no other reason to send them there. And by just throwing this word peaceful into your speech does not make it any less an insurrection. And does not remove your intent in inciting an insurrection. That's like if you were to rob a bank and you stick your gun in the teller's face and you say, give me all your money, but I'm not robbing you. Oh, really? Is that all you have to do is say, well, I'm not robbing you and it's not a robbery? Come on. That's the same thing as saying, go to the Capitol. If you don't, go to the Capitol right now with your weapons. If you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore, but do it peacefully. Give me a fucking break. Anyway, boy, this is a long, winding way of answering this original question. Will the U.S. run out of friends by the end of Trump's term? So the point was, after having done all that, after trying to overthrow the Republic on live TV, we reelected him. So we did it again. So I think we were already losing some of our allies. At least some of them behind the scenes were making, we're doing what they could to sort of distance themselves from us, to not be quite as reliant on their relationship with us anymore, because we can no longer be trusted. If they weren't sure about that in 2016, 2024 sealed the deal. They now know, even before anything that he has done since taking office in January, just the fact that we as an American people would reelect him told our allies that we are no longer the same country. And they cannot count on us anymore. So I think it was already happening. We the American people returning him to the White House already did great damage to our relationships with our allies and caused them to start to make other arrangements to not be reliant on us to the extent that they have been, looking for other economic and political and security arrangements because they just can't trust us anymore that we would do this again. Now, since becoming president, I mean, it's only made them, the urgency for them to disentangle their interests from us as much as possible has only kicked that into high gear with the tariffs and the threats. You know, he slapped tariffs on most countries in the world, including all of our allies. Like I've said, Canada. I mean, he's been horrible to Canada, but not just Canada, all of our allies. He slapped tariffs on. He is threatening some of our closest allies with military force. He has said that, we're going to take over Canada. It should become the 51st state. By the way, isn't that fucking stupid? I mean, Canada is enormous. If we were going to annex Canada, shouldn't it be more than one state? Just saying. So he's threatened Canada. He is threatening Denmark again on a near daily basis because he wants Greenland for whatever his reasons there. And I think there are probably a few different reasons why he wants Greenland. But this man is insane. He's a madman. You can't take that out of any of this. He is, people talk about his reasons. The primary reason, probably, the overarching reason that explains most of what he's doing, I think, is the fact that he's simply a fucking psycho. The man is a malignant narcissist. He is clearly a very demented person. He has, sick delusions of grandeur. He's a nut. He really is. He is a madman, drunk on his power. And I think that motivates a lot of it. But there's other things. Not the least of which is to distract from Epstein. I mean, I think the timing of us illegally invading Venezuela, the timing at least. Wow, I think something just shot out of my mouth. I don't know if you caught that on the camera there, but I wanted to acknowledge it. So if you saw something shoot out of my mouth, know that I did too. Boy, that's embarrassing. Anyway, but it happens to us all, does it not? Anyway, so yeah, I think we're not going to have a lot of friends left by the time this guy is gone. And the friends that we will have are not the kind of friends we want to have. He is cozying up to the worst countries in the world. He's cozying up to dictators while he's treating our friends, historically our closest allies, like absolute shit. So we'll probably have some friends. We'll probably have many phony friends. Many of our allies will still pretend to be our allies while doing everything they can to distance and disentangle themselves from us. That will continue. But we'll still have some of them. They'll be doing the diplomatic thing, pretending that we're friends when we're really not. They know now that we're not. They may say that we are, but they know we're not. Anyway, it's I don't know what the hell it's going to look like by the time this guy is gone. How long did I spend answering that fucking question? Yeah, I think there's zero chance I'm going to get through all of these. With Trump's interest in invading Greenland, is Iceland likely to become a staging area? I think it was mentioned somewhere that U.S. military assets in Iceland have been expanding, building up. They are a close ally of the U.S., and Iceland doesn't have a military, so they're pretty much at Trump's mercy. The short answer to your question is I don't know. I don't know how he would go about invading Greenland. It seems to me, we're already there. We have bases in Greenland, which is why this is so fucking ridiculous. Whatever he says he wants it for strategic reasons, I think that's all hogwash. You know what I really think the main reason he wants Greenland is because Putin wants him to take Greenland. You know, Putin doesn't like the fact that Greenland is very strategically important. See, Trump talks about the strategic importance of Greenland. But I think he talks about it in terms of why Putin doesn't like Greenland under our control, or, under NATO control. Because, Greenland is a territory of Denmark, which is part of NATO. We don't control Greenland. We have bases there. But what Putin, I think, wants is for his puppet Trump to take complete control of Greenland so that NATO can't use it to monitor Putin from Greenland. I think Putin wants his puppet Trump to take over Greenland and then to stop using it, stop allowing NATO to use it to monitor Putin. That's what I think. I think he wants it to help Putin, to help Putin's strategic interests. That's what I think. So when Trump is saying it's strategically important, I think that's true, but not the way most people are hearing it. It's because of the strategic importance to Putin. That's why I think he wants it. He wants it because Putin told him to get it. That's what I think. In terms of will he use Iceland, again, I don't know, but we're there. We have bases there. We could just take it over from within. We're already there. But anyway, back to my point about that, which makes his whole reasons, his stated reasons for wanting it for U.S. strategic reasons. Any strategic reasons we would want Greenland, we don't need to annex Greenland in order to use it for those strategic reasons. Denmark is our NATO ally. They benefit from our military presence there, which is why they have allowed us to have military bases there. They would let us do anything we want there. All right, I just saw something else shoot out of my fucking face. You know what I think it is? I think I got a bit of cottonmouth going on here. I'm going to go fill this mug up with some water. Hold on. You know what? I don't have to get up and get any water. There's still coffee in this mug. I didn't realize that. Okay, wet my whistle a little bit there. All right, so anyway, I don't know about Iceland is the answer to that question. Here's another one. Are we going to have any energy left in 3 years? I feel like my brain is in an unending fog. Maybe that's the point, to wear us out. Well, there's definitely something to that. We know that is part of their strategy. Steve Bannon has talked about this a lot, flooding the zone with bullshit. Or flooding the zone with shit, or whatever the hell he said. I don't know. That man should be in prison by now. I mean, he's been pardoned twice. No, he was pardoned once. I love the crime for which he was pardoned. These fucking MAGAs. I was washing up this morning, and you know how you have songs pop in your head for no friggin' reason all of a sudden? I got this song on my head. I had that song, Cult of Personality by Living Colour. And that line in that song was going on in my head. I don't know why. But the line says, I exploit you, still you love me. That's the Trump cult. I mean, Trump exploits these people. He grifts off these people. He treats these people worse than anybody else. I mean, he treats his own supporters worse than he treats us. I mean, think about it. He steals their money, right? I mean, he floods them daily still with calls for money, trying to peddle them cheap crap. Buy my digital playing card with me. Me riding a dinosaur with my shirt open and my muscles rippling, carrying an American flag. I mean, that kind, and they do. They do. They buy worthless crap from him. How much money have these morons spent buying cheap crap from this guy? You know, he buys cheap ass sneakers from China. He spray paints them gold. He stamps his signature on the side of it. And he sells it to these morons for $700, $800. And they buy it. He buys cheap, crappy watches, puts his name on it, and he sells it to them for $1,500 or whatever. And they buy it. It's cheap, worthless crap, and they buy it. They send him money. He's not getting any money from us. He's not grifting us. And yeah, he's screwing all of us too with his policies, but guess what? They're getting screwed too with his policies. In fact, many of them are getting screwed worse than most of us are. So they get screwed by the policies like us, but they also get screwed by the grifting that he does again, from them. He treats them like absolute crap. Anyway, I didn't forget my place. I was talking about Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon flooding the zone with crap. See, this is why I need this podcast, where I can just, hey buddy, I'm recording. It's all right. My son. Anyway, this is why I need this podcast. I have so much up here that I'd like to talk about, and I can't do it. I can't cover all these things in a regular length video like I do on my other channels. My two other channels, by the way, the Romano Report, the main one, those videos are usually between 10 to 25 minutes. The my other channel, Romano, that's where I put shorter videos. So I can't, there's no opportunity for just off the cuff, wherever the mind wanders commentary like I can do here. And I do this here because I know some of you like the long form content. It's what I like. I don't watch a lot of other YouTubers or anything like that. I do listen to some podcasts, a few select podcasts, but they're longer podcasts. I don't like 10-minute videos. I don't like 20-minute videos. I like a good hour or more. I like to listen to a podcast while I'm hiking or I'm exercising or whatever. I don't like the short stuff. And I know a lot of you are the same way. And so this is good. It allows me an opportunity to talk about all this stuff in long form, which some of you like. So anyway, back to Steve fucking Bannon. So yes, I'll get back to this question here about, maybe it's the point to wear us down. That is part of the point with Trump, with Steve Bannon's strategy of flooding the zone with shit. It's one, to wear you down, and it's also to keep the targets constantly moving. So you can't focus on just one thing. He does one horrible thing. You start trying to focus on that to tell everybody about that horrible thing. Well, all of a sudden they do another horrible thing. Well, now your focus went from there now to this. Then they do another one. Now you're over here. And you're constantly chasing the bullshit. And so you can't effectively target any one of those horrible things that he's doing because they're flooding the zone with shit. It also has the advantage of wearing you out and just making you throw up your hands and just checking out, which leaves the playing field for Trump and for his people. They've worn you down. You've checked out. Now they don't have any opposition. It's to wear down the opposition. Anyway, so Steve Bannon, I said he should be in prison right now and that he grifted the cult. What he was pardoned for, remember in Trump's first term, he wanted to build the wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. Then when Mexico wasn't going to pay for it, he tried to, that's what some of those government shutdowns was about. He tried to get money out of Congress, didn't really get any money out of Congress. But there were other grifters who seized upon this whole build the wall thing to grift money off the cult. And Steve Bannon, along with this other grifter, started this phony nonprofit, and what they did with it was to solicit donations from Trump voters to say, give us money and we will take it all, we'll bundle it all up, we'll take everybody's money, and then we will give it to Trump. And then he can use that money to build the wall. So donate to us directly so that we can build the wall. Congress won't give us money to build the wall. We'll build it ourselves. So, MAGAs were all for that. They threw money at this thing. And I remember I tried to warn them at the time. And man, the hate I got. I told them, I said, guys, this is a scam. And the reason I know it's a scam is because what they are saying they are going to do is not possible for them to do. They say that they're going to take this money and then they're going to give it to Trump and then Trump can use it to build the wall. Well, that's not how it works. You can't donate money to the federal government for specific purposes. You can't direct your money and tell the federal government how to spend that money. Any money you give to the federal government goes into the general treasury. And not a dime of that money can be spent unless it's been appropriated by Congress. So you can't give money to the president and then he uses it to get around Congress to then use it to build a wall. Can't do that. You give it to the government, it goes into the treasury, and the president can't spend a dime of it unless Congress appropriates that money. So I said, this is a scam. They can't give it to Trump, and Trump can't use it to build the wall. Not how it works. They didn't want to hear that. I didn't know what I was talking about, and all of that. I got some very, very nasty comments. Anyway, turns out it was a scam because it was a scam. And Bannon and this other guy, Brian Calfage, I think his name was, they got indicted for it. Trump pardoned Bannon. I don't know if he pardoned the other guy. Anyway, so he got pardoned for that. He was then indicted by the state of New York. I think it was the state of New York. Anyway, I don't think Trump obviously can't pardon him for a state crime, but I think they gave him some bullshit slap on the wrist. So anyway, he should be in prison. Right now, he's not. Of course, he did go to prison for contempt of Congress. Anyway, where was I with this question? Oh yeah, are we going to have any energy left in 3 years? I feel like my brain is in an unending fog. I totally get it. And look, we need to have energy when this is all done. So it's important to take care of yourself and not let this run you down too much. And also, let me take this opportunity to comment on something that I see happening frequently, and it's just happened with this Venezuela stuff. I see people are on too much of a roller coaster ride of emotions. Now, I will admit that I'm subject to that myself a bit, although I'm trying my best not to succumb to that. But my emotional reaction to this stuff is, anger that this is happening. And it's really more directed, at Congress for allowing this. Congress can end all of this today. I mean, there is the remedy for this, because I hear all the time, what are we going to do about it? Nobody's going to do anything about it. Nobody's doing anything about it. Yeah, there's nothing we can do. Sorry to tell you that, because I get this all the time. We need solutions. There are no magic solutions here. Okay? There is a remedy to this. It was put right into the Constitution for exactly this sort of a situation. A lawless rogue president who violates the law, violates the Constitution. The remedy is to impeach and remove him from office. I know you don't like to hear it because it's failed twice and this Congress isn't obviously going to do it. And so you think there's some other magic solution. There's not. And I hear people all the time, 25th Amendment. Guys, I've explained it. That's even harder than impeachment. What do you need for impeachment? a majority vote in the House and 2/3 vote in the Senate. That's it. You get both of those things, he's out. You know what you need to strip a president of his power via the 25th Amendment against his will? And by the way, it doesn't remove him from office. It just temporarily strips his authority from him, and it passes to the vice president acts as acting president. But what do you need for that? Well, you need a majority of the cabinet. Then you need 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. So can we shut the fuck up about the 25th Amendment, please? If you think removing him by impeachment is hard, the 25th Amendment is way harder. So can we just stop with that? Anyway, back to my point. I get angry. My emotional reaction to some of this, to the extent I have an emotional reaction, and I did with this Venezuela stuff. I mean, not too much. I mean, we expected this. I'm not surprised by Trump anymore. I mean, my emotional reaction is never shock that he did something, right? I always expect him to do the worst. So we weren't surprised. I wasn't surprised. My emotional reaction to it is anger that our country is in this position where this man gets away with this. That's what makes me angry. Now, what I see from a lot of people, though, is this. I see a lot of hysterics. I see up and down. I mean, not that long ago, people, I don't want to say on the left, because it's not just people on the left. People opposed to this MAGA fascism. And that's not just people on the left. Those who, stand for liberty and democracy. I see a lot of people getting overly emotional. Because my point was, not that long ago, before we went into the holiday break, really up until Trump invaded Venezuela, people were feeling pretty optimistic, was the general sense. Trump's going down in the polls. I mean, abysmal in the polls. Everything is going wrong for him politically. MAGA there's a civil war going on in MAGA. Republicans are trying to figure out desperately how to distance themselves from Trump because they know he's electoral poison heading into the midterms. So those of us opposed to Trump, many people were feeling cautiously optimistic. They're feeling better about things. Then Trump invades Venezuela, and I just see a lot of overly emotional, sky is falling kind of hysterics. And then whenever I see people reacting that way, I hear a lot of, it's all over, he's going to cancel the midterms, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I don't mean to belittle people fearing what he's going to try to do with the midterms. But I just, the emotional roller coaster that some people are allowing themselves to experience, you got to rein that shit in. Just understand that it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Just accept that. And, you can be angry at Congress. Put pressure on them. Have you called your members of Congress? Have you done any of that? If not, start there. Channel your anger and your fear into something positive. But as far as the hysterical, someone's got to do something. Why isn't anyone doing anything? Because Trump's cult controls Congress. That's why. And they're the only one in our system who can do anything. And I get a lot of people angry at me. All you do is talk. When are you going to do something? What the fuck do you expect me to do? Seriously. And if you expect me to do it, then why don't you fucking do it? That's my reaction when I read some of this stuff. Okay, you're expecting me to do something. Well, what's stopping you from doing whatever it is you expect me to do? Why do I have to do it? And what is it that you think I should be doing? Should I be leading an armed resistance? Is that what you expect me to do? I'm not going to do that. That's not going to work. All it's going to do is destroy my family. It's going to send me to prison. And, that's all that's going to happen. Why the fuck would I do that? Okay, we have a system here. I mean, people think that the system doesn't work. The system is working. Okay? It's not producing the result that it should be, that we think it should be, but it is working in the sense that Congress, members of Congress, are acting rationally from their point of view, both politically and otherwise. Meaning, given the stupid party system that we have developed in this country, and that's a big part of the problem, these members of Congress, Republicans control Congress. So if you're going to have Congress do what they're supposed to do, we're talking about Republicans doing it. Okay, because Democrats don't have the numbers. You need Republicans to do this. And they are not going to do this because they are acting rationally from their point of view. And that means they want to get reelected. And they need the votes of the Republican Party. The base of the Republican Party, that is who controls who gets nominated in the Republican Party. And the base of the Republican Party are Trump cultists. So if they, as elected members of Congress, want to keep their jobs as Republicans, they can't stand up to Trump because they will be primaried and they will be run out of Congress. Look at what has happened to every Republican who has tried to stand up to Trump. They are gone. They are afraid of that happening to them. I have told you, I've said it a million times. I'm the only one who I have heard say this, and it is true. So understand it. It is true. And that is, members of Congress, including Republicans, will impeach and remove Donald Trump from office when they fear the people more than they fear Donald Trump. Or more than they fear Donald Trump and that segment of the American people that comprise the base of the Republican Party. When they fear the rest of us more than they fear Trump and his cult, they will impeach and remove Trump from office. But right now they don't. They think it is in their political best interest to do what they're doing. We need to change that political calculation for these people. And maybe we can't. Maybe we won't. In which case, we are going to have to flip Congress and change the makeup of Congress, which we will get an opportunity to do in November. And yes, I believe there will be elections. A lot of people think, oh, he's just going to cancel elections. I hear that. I've heard that hysterically said so many times since January. And those things, it comes and goes. Like, nobody was saying that too much a couple of weeks ago. But now he invaded Venezuela. I hear it all over the fucking place. People are right back to, he's going to cancel elections. He's not going to cancel elections. He can't. He will try to rig them, but he's not going to cancel them. And whenever I say something like that, people say, never say can't. Look at all the things that people said he can't do that he's done. You have to draw distinctions. These are different things. You're comparing apples and oranges because people say like, well, you didn't think he could invade Venezuela, but he did that. Okay, apples and fucking oranges. It's easier for him to invade in Venezuela than it is for him to cancel elections. Some things are under his control. Even if it's not legal for him to do, it's within his control to do. Other things are not. Okay, so let's take Venezuela versus canceling elections. What does it take to invade Venezuela? Give an order to the military. That's all he has to do. That's what he did, and we invaded Venezuela. Okay? As long as the military follows the order of the commander-in-chief, then he can invade Venezuela. What does he have to do to cancel elections? Can he just give an order to somebody to cancel elections? No. That's the difference. Elections are not within his control. Directing the military to invade another country, Even if it's not legal, and this sure as fuck was not legal, it's still within his control if they follow his orders. He is commander-in-chief of the military. He has no such control over elections. Elections are not run by the federal government. The elections are run by state and local elections officials. There is not a single person anywhere in this country responsible for conducting elections who works for Donald Trump. Not one. There's not a single person responsible for administering our elections who takes orders from Donald Trump. Donald Trump can't stop elections. He cannot cancel them. And I hear people, oh, he'll declare an emergency. He'll be at war and we can't have war. I heard this all the time, by the way. I must have heard it half a dozen times or more yesterday alone. That we can't have elections during war. Trump knows that. That's why we're having... What the fuck are you talking about? We've had lots of elections during war. We had an election during the civil fucking war. So what the hell are people talking about? Yes, we have elections during war many times in our history. That does not give the president any authority to cancel elections. He has none. There is no constitutional or legal authority for the president to cancel elections. So how the fuck is he going to do it? He's not. He can't cancel elections. Now, he may do things to try to rig them. And I've talked about some of those things, and we'll talk about them more. I think he will do everything he can to try to rig them. And I don't doubt for a second that he may try to cancel elections. But it's not going to work because he doesn't control them. Anyway, the point is, people go back to that every time I've noticed it. It's a pattern. Every time he does something really, really bad, like invade Venezuela, people start with the sky is falling, we're all going to die, it's the end of everything, he's going to cancel elections and be a dictator for life and martial law. And people just spiral emotionally. This is going back to this question here. Will we have any energy left? It's important not to let yourself succumb to all of that. If you've got to step away, just stop. Just stop watching the news. You watching the news, you getting on social media and subjecting yourself to all of this shit is not going to change anything anyway. So get the fuck away from it. Except my YouTube videos, okay? You don't want to stop that. It is very important to your mental health. You would be out of your friggin' mind to step away from my YouTube videos. Everything else, you can switch off, all right? Go walk in the woods. Why do you think I record in the woods so much? It helps with my mental health, you know? It's important to get the hell out of the house, put the phone down, turn the TV off, be alone with your thoughts. It's so important, and so few people do that anymore. It's like even when you have downtime, alone time, so many people just never allow themselves to be alone with their thoughts. They're constantly picking up their phone and they're in the phone. Go be alone with your thoughts. You know, as they say, touch grass, take a walk, get out of this. Right? If all of this stuff is important to you and it's just draining you mentally, if you find yourself spiraling every time Trump does something horrible and you think that the sky's falling, that's when it's time to walk away. All right? Anyway, so it's important that we have energy left, you know, by the end of all of this. It's important. It's important that we have energy come November, so we can finally start doing something affirmatively to fight back against this. Anyway, if SCOTUS strikes down the tariffs, what happens next? I guess it depends how they strike down the tariffs. What do they say in their opinion? I don't know. Now, first of all, will they strike down the tariffs? Now, that shouldn't be a close call, right? It should be, of course, they're going to slap down the tariffs. And many people expect them to. They seemed very skeptical of his tariffs during oral arguments, but you shouldn't read too much into the questions you get from the justices during oral arguments. Oftentimes it gives you a window into their thinking, but sometimes it doesn't. It's misleading, so don't read too much into it. But they did seem very skeptical, and so a lot of people think that they are in fact going to strike down the tariffs. And importantly, they did recently rule against him big time, and that was on the issue of his deployment of the National Guard into California. Anyway, so it should be a no-brainer. They absolutely should strike down his tariffs. I'm not willing, I mean, as a legal matter, it's a no-brainer, but I'm not willing to go out on that limb and say that they will. They should, certainly, but they can also, when they don't want to arrive at the right decision, what they know is the right decision, they can come up with all kinds of bullshit justifications for ruling in the way that they want to, even though they know it's the wrong way, and they can do it in such a way as to say, but this is not a precedent. This is just a unique set of circumstances that makes it different. They do that all the time. And that's, honestly, if I had to bet, I wouldn't bet a lot of money on it, but I'd probably put some money on, if I had to bet, on them upholding the tariffs for some bullshit reason. But who knows? They should strike them down. And then in terms of what happens next, again, that would have a lot to do with what they say in their opinion. Do they address whether all that tariff revenue has to be refunded to the businesses that paid the tariffs? That's going to be a mess, because I bet there's going to be if the federal government is required to return that tariff money, nobody who paid increased prices at the store as a result of those tariffs is going to get any money back, I would imagine. I don't know. I mean, how the hell would you do that? But the companies, the importing companies who paid the tariffs, they would get the refunds, because though they are the ones who paid the tariffs. Now, ultimately, we paid them in the form of increased prices, but we didn't pay the tariffs directly. They were indirectly passed on to us in the price of our goods that we bought. The ones who directly paid the tariffs were the importing companies. So they might get a check back from the federal government. What are they going to do? They going to give it to us? No. We're going to get screwed. The importing companies will get their money back if that is what the Supreme Court says they have to do. This is one of the reasons why I would bet, if I had to, that they're going to find a reason, some sort of bullshit justification for upholding the tariffs, just because of the clusterfuck that would result if they overturn them, and because they do everything, they bend over backwards to rule in Trump's favor. But who knows? And I'll be honest here. This is just raw politics, but not as a constitutional matter, but as a political one, and really for the future of the country. I hope that they do not overturn the tariffs, because here's where I'm at. We need the American people to turn against Donald Trump and MAGA as much as possible. And unfortunately, I have a very low opinion of the American people. And I think that the only thing that will really turn them against Donald Trump is a bad economy. I think if the economy was good, they wouldn't give a shit about most of the horrible things he's doing, and they don't. Why the American people are turning against Trump, I think, is primarily because of the economy. If the economy was doing well, if the price of groceries had come down, I think Trump's approval numbers would be higher, and they wouldn't give a shit about illegally invading Venezuela or going to war with our NATO allies. They wouldn't give a shit about anything, I think, a lot of them. I think the American people, far too many of them, obviously not all of them, they're oblivious. They're concerned only about themselves. They don't give a shit. They don't care about his crimes. Look, they reelected him after January 6th. They don't care. The only thing they care about is what it's costing them. And if the tariffs get thrown out, that could only help the economy. I don't know how quickly that would benefit the economy, but that would be a huge plus. And I think that would benefit Donald Trump politically, which would help him in his project of turning this country into a fascist dictatorship. So I don't want to see anything that will help him in any way. And I think the Supreme Court throwing out the tariffs would help him politically. So for that reason and that reason alone, I kind of hope that they don't throw out the tariffs so that he and Republicans suffer the consequences. I hate saying this because what I'm also saying there is I hope the economy does not improve. I hope the economy gets worse. It's a terrible thing to say. I mean, I'm affected by it. I'm paying more at the grocery store. But I'm probably in a better position to afford it than a lot of people are. And I know a lot of people are going to get hurt by it. And it's terrible. I don't want to see that happen. But in the long run, everyone is going to suffer much more unless this country overwhelmingly turns against Donald Trump and MAGA. So, yeah, I mean, it's a sad state of affairs where you're kind of hoping that the economy gets worse and that these illegal tariffs remain in place. But that's where we're at. And I'm just being honest with you. Anyway, one more question. Now, I also asked this question, asked if anyone had any questions on Facebook, and I got a whole bunch, actually more questions on Facebook, but I'm not going to get to any of these. Maybe I'm going to have to do this again maybe tomorrow. I don't know, or certainly another time this week to try to get to these questions. But I'll do one final question here from people who asked questions on YouTube. This person wrote, "Why is he still in office even though you said that once his ratings are in the 30s, everything will go down for him?" Well, that obviously is not an exact quote because that's not something I would have said. If he gets down in the 30s, everything will go down for him. But I have talked about the importance of his poll numbers, and that once he starts dipping into the 30s, that will begin to change the politics. And he's right around, depends on the poll. Some polls have him in the low 40s. Several polls have him in the mid to upper 30s. I haven't seen any polls in the last couple of weeks. I'd be interested to see polls that take into account this Venezuelan invasion. But anyway, we've already seen the politics begin to shift as a result of his horrible poll numbers, coupled with recent elections that we've had where Republicans have gotten their asses kicked. You see it. You see Republicans more and more being willing to speak out against Trump, to oppose Trump. Not as much as we would like, as quickly as we like, for sure. But even now, Republicans, Trump has issued 2 vetoes, the first 2 vetoes of this administration in the last few weeks. One having to do with some water project in Colorado, which Lauren Boebert is pissed off about. Remember, Lauren Boebert is, and this goes to the point. Donald Trump summoned her to the White House, brought her into the Situation Room, had half the cabinet there, and J.D. Vance and Susie Wiles trying to pressure her to flip her vote on the Epstein release bill, and she refused. And you saw the only reason Donald Trump flipped on his position on the Epstein release bill is because the Republican Party was defying him on that. Why do you think that is? It's because they see that he is politically weakened. Why? In part because of his shit poll numbers. So yes, I have been right all along when I told you the lower his poll numbers go, the more it will begin to change. And you know when you're really going to see it too? If his poll numbers, if he remains unpopular, as I believe he will. Although be prepared for it, you could see a slight uptick in his poll numbers because of the Venezuela thing, but that will be short-lived. That'll just be a temporary rally around the flag bullshit thing. But I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm just saying if it happens, don't panic. It's going to be temporary. But when you're really going to see Republicans start to distance themselves more from Trump and stand up to him more is once the filing deadline for the primary passes. Because a lot of them want to be distancing themselves from Trump to the extent that they can. But they're waiting for they don't want a primary. And if they start speaking out against Trump, Trump might, get them a primary opponent. Once the filing deadline for these primaries comes and goes, that might be a time when you see more of them speak out. But we're already seeing it. Because in large part, because of his low poll numbers. Because they can see that the American people don't like this fucker. He's not popular. And so, I'm telling you, the laws of politics have not been repealed. Poll numbers matter. I hear it all the time when I mention poll numbers. Oh, poll numbers don't matter. Yes, they fucking do. And anyone who says that polls don't matter is not a serious person. Doesn't understand any of this stuff, and you should discount whatever the fuck else they say because they are important. They remain important. And so back to this question. Why is he still in office even though you said that once his ratings are in the 30s, everything will go down for him? Well, what I said would happen once he gets into the 30s has begun to happen, and you'll see it more. I never said he was going to be removed from office. Did anyone hear me say, oh, well, if his poll numbers go in the 30s, what, was he going to resign? Was the Congress going to immediately impeach and remove him from office when his numbers hit 39? No. I never said that. So I don't know what you expected. I don't know what you heard me say that led you to believe that he would not be in office. Never said that. Anyway, I thank you for the question, though, but I would encourage you to pay a little more attention because not what I said. I would never say something stupid like that. Anyway, I guess that's it for now. We'll do more of this. Let me know if you like this. I mean, I know this was a lot of tangential rambling here. There was no structure. I was just answering questions on the fly. Honestly, didn't even look at these questions before. Read them for the first time as I'm recording here. And, the mind, my synapses fire as they will. My thoughts go where they will. And this was just sort of free-forming it. So let me know if you like that. Maybe you didn't. And if you didn't, I apologized. But let me know one way or another. And if you didn't like it, be gentle. I have feelings. But I hope you did enjoy it. And I thank you for watching. And I will talk to you again soon. Take care.